A shocking avalanche took place in Alaska.
And a controversial pick for chief of the Department of Education appointed. I'm Alejandro.
And I'm Kiera, and this is Skills USA News. A group of skiers were killed in a deadly avalanche in the Chugach Mountains. Buried in depths greater than 30 feet, the victims are currently being searched for in the snow. Witnesses saw the skiers deploy their avalanche airbags. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to keep them from being swept away by the snow. Currently, there is one confirmed survivor. Be extra careful this week as the ongoing avalanche concern continues.
Thursday, European leaders gathered in Brussels to discuss the hostile era in Europe after the belligerent interactions between President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. This initiated further discussions amongst the European nations. These discussions aimed to determine a way to support Ukraine in its war with Russia while increasing their own defenses without provoking their unpredictable allies in Washington.
The Senate voted on Linda McMahon as the new head of the Department of Education. Many of McMahon's supporters see her as a skilled executive, while her opponents say she is unqualified and fear that her plans will negatively affect students nationwide. McMahon's goal is to increase efficiency, suggesting some operations such as disability rights and financial aid ought to be assumed by other departments. McMahon will face the daunting task of shutting down the Department of Education as President Donald Trump says he wants to bring power back to the states.
FIFA is increasing the number of teams in the 2030 World Cup from 48 to 64, which will be met with a huge outcry. The proposal made in a FIFA board meeting led to reactions described as stunned silence. The World Cup has already generated battles among which nations to host it, and the proposal would upend the tournament played across 3 continents. With more teams comes increased management difficulty to the already unwieldy and complicated process of hosting the World Cup. FIFA hopes to see potential financial benefits when it comes to the matter, while the people remain highly critical.
A thief gulped down 2 pairs of diamond earrings during his arrest last week. A 32-year-old man from Texas is accused of stealing the $720,000 Tiffany & Co. diamond earrings from an Orlando shopping center last Wednesday.
Sales associates escorted the man to a VIP room where he could view the jewelry. A short time later, he jumped out of his chair, grabbed the jewelry, and fled the scene.
Detectives found him arrested nearly 340 miles away, and while being taken into custody, he swallowed several items troopers believed to be the earrings.
The suspect was charged with 1st and 3rd degree felony and is being held in custody. But get this, the police will need to wait until the earrings are passed to be collected.
Gross, that's gotta hurt. Well, that's all the time we have for today. I'm Kiera.
And I'm Alejandro, and this has been Skills USA News.
Cheetos sells at auction for nearly $90,000.
And Vice President J.D. Vance sells his Alexandria home.
I'm Brett.
I'm Finn, and this is Skills USA News.
Major developments in Ukraine. European leaders met today in Brussels to discuss how to handle the growing crisis.
With U.S. support becoming more uncertain, European nations are realizing they need to step up their own defenses. At the summit in Brussels, leaders emphasized urgency, with the European Parliament president even stating that it is about time they took action.
The big question is whether Europe can adapt fast enough to keep up with the shifting global politics, especially with Trump pressuring them to spend more on defense.
It's a major shift, and it leaves a big question. Can Europe move fast enough to secure its own defense before things take a turn for the worse?
In sports news, things are getting complicated with the 2030 World Cup. FIFA is considering expanding the tournament to 64 teams, marking the centenary of the event.
While this change sounds great in theory, there is a catch. The 2030 tournament is already set to take place across 3 continents.
And it's not just that. FIFA's recent decision to award the 2034 World Cup to Saudi Arabia without any competition is sparking major backlash.
Right. FIFA's own board members were apparently stunned when the 64-team proposal came up. But at the end of the day, money talks and FIFA listens.
It's all about the money. More teams means more games, more tickets, and bigger TV deals. But could also make the tournament a nightmare, especially since 2030's event is already set to be played across 3 continents.
We'll keep an eye on it. Speaking of big money, Vice President J.D. Vance just sold his Alexandria, Virginia home in under a week.
After purchasing the elegant home just over 2 years ago for a whopping $1.639 million, Vance has chosen to sell the property.
Vance's now former estate entered the market last Thursday.
He listed it for a slightly increased price of $1.695 million, and by the following Monday, it was already under contract.
The home, built in 1925, blends old charm with modern upgrades. And given the area's real estate market, it's no surprise it went fast.
5 bedrooms, a backyard, and a separate guest unit. Sounds like a solid investment.
It really does. Where do you think we'll move to next?
Maybe he'll finally move in with his orange boss.
And speaking of orange, a flamin' hot Cheeto shaped like the beloved Pokemon character Charizard just sold at auction for a jaw-dropping $87,840.
It was originally found between 2018 and 2022 and went viral last year. 60 bids later, someone decided this Cheeto was worth more than a luxury car.
Now, Brett, would you pay nearly 90 grand for a snack you can't even eat?
Honestly, I'd be too scared to even touch it. One wrong move, and that's $87,000 dust pile.
You have to frame it or put it in a vault like the Mona Lisa of snacks.
From global politics to World Cup chaos, million-dollar homes, and overpriced snacks, we covered it all. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Brett Beal.
I'm Finn Clark, and this is Skills USA News.
A suspicious death at a university leads to a police investigation.
Tensions continue to rise in international relations.
And a local hockey player is on track to break a major record.
I'm Ula Olsen.
And I'm AJ Lee. This is Skills USA News.
The Baton Rouge Police Department is investigating the possible death by hazing of 20-year-old Caleb Wilson, a junior at Southern University and Agricultural and Mechanical College. Wilson was found on February 27th, but the cause and manner of Wilson's death is undetermined at this time. There were rumors of unsanctioned off-campus activities related to the local chapter of the Omega Psi Phi fraternity. It is currently unclear whether or not Wilson was a fraternity member. The police department has yet to comment on the investigation, but both Southern University and Omega Psi Phi have pledged their cooperation. A candlelit vigil for Wilson was held by students on campus Friday evening.
Amidst increasing controversy, FIFA is considering a proposal to increase the number of teams in the World Cup. FIFA's president, Gianni Infantino, received criticism for awarding the 2034 World Cup to Saudi Arabia after changing the rules to allow the country to host. Infantino has continued to face criticism after increasing the number of teams from 32 to 48 for the 2026 World Cup. The proposal to include additional teams would raise that number to 64. Several sources say that the decision is likely to cause a large outcry. They also noted that Infantino is closely reviewing the proposal before taking further action.
Later today, European leaders will meet in Brussels to discuss the increasing tensions between Ukraine and Russia. This meeting is one of several rushed summits on defense regarding the possible need for increased defense spending. In this new era of international relations, the European Union is faced with a dilemma: continue with their purpose of cooperation and peace, or rise to meet the increasing animosity on the world stage. This pressure is partially attributed to President Trump's negotiations with President Zelensky, his general emphasis on increased domestic defense for all parties, and his continued efforts to halt U.S. international aid.
In local news, hockey star Alexander Ovechkin is very close to breaking Wayne Gretzky's record of 894 career goals. He scored his 885th career goal during the third period of the Washington Capitals game, which was against the New York Rangers on Wednesday night. This means that he only needs 10 more goals to beat the record. Go Caps!
Cold water swimmers in the Czech Republic successfully set a new world record for the largest polar bear dip, with 2,461 total participants. The previous record, set in 2015, had 1,799 participants. For the record to be recognized, the participants had to be at least waist deep in water for 60 seconds. And, get this, the water temperature was 38.3 degrees Fahrenheit. That's absolutely frigid. Which reminds me of a joke I know. Hey AJ, what do you call a polar bear on thin ice?
What do you say?
An icebreaker. For Skills USA, I'm Ula.
And I'm AJ.
Local hockey icon is one step closer to breaking a 25-year-old record.
The European Union is forced to make tough decisions as a result of changes with global allies.
And FIFA contemplates adjusting the amount of teams in the World Cup bracket.
All this and more, I'm Tony.
I'm Caroline, and this is Skills USA News.
European countries enter a turning point after the United States pulled its aid in Ukraine. This single decision has forced all of Europe to come together to try and figure out the best course of action. After the meeting of the 27 members of the European Union, they finally came to the consensus to refocus their funding into their defenses. The European Union hasn't needed to show large-scale defensive measures for a long time. However, this sudden change forces them to put their money where their mouth is.
FIFA, the governing body for global soccer, is considering a plan that would increase the number of teams to 64 in the 2030 World Cup. The World Cup is the most watched sporting event in the world, and countries often fight over who has the honor of hosting the matches. This proposal, made at the FIFA board meeting on Wednesday, would further complicate the matter of hosting, since the tournament will be held across 3 continents. There are also concerns about FIFA's decision being guided by financial and political benefits, making officials say that the proposal will most definitely upset the soccer community.
In local news, Washington Capitals superstar Alex Ovechkin is now 9 goals away from reaching the all-time goals scored record, with his most recent goal against the New York Rangers on Wednesday. Ovechkin started the season hot, scoring 15 goals in his first 18 games before unfortunately missing 16 games with a fractured fibula. Since his return on December 28th, he has scored 17 goals in 28 games. Capitals coach Spencer Carberry was enthusiastic after the game, knowing the record is well within reach.
A Florida man was arrested after robbing a Tiffany & Company in an Orlando shopping center. The thief stole $770,000 worth of jewelry from the store by posing as a man purchasing items on behalf of an Orlando Magic basketball player. Although a sales associate was able to knock a diamond ring worth over $500,000 out of the thief's hand, the man still got away with 2 pairs of diamond earrings.
Now here's the best part. When the man was finally arrested over 340 miles away from the crime scene, state troopers witnessed the man swallow what they believed to be the stolen pair of earrings. He was then charged with first-degree felony grand theft and robbery with a mask.
Yikes, that's one expensive meal.
And I bet it didn't even taste that good.
No. Well, that's all the time we have for today. I'm Caroline.
And I'm Tony. And this has been Skills USA News.